All right, everybody, let's do this. Let's see here. It says live streaming isn't enabled in this group. Let's see if I want to knock that out. See if I can hit this go live real quick. Nope, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to remove that one. All right, we're going to be doing the Power Take segment where we're talking about business news. There are some really important updates worldwide regarding Facebook, Twitter, etc. that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to try to filter through all of that as best as possible and make sure that you guys are in tune. Now, if you have some news, if you have business news, don't hesitate to join me on this broadcast. Let me go ahead and drop the link real quick. Let me see here. Copy this link address, drop it in here. Again, if you've got news for your business, let's see your comments. There we go. Feel free to come in and announce it with me, and we'll discuss what that news looks like. Happy to help spread the word for you. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with Power Take Live as I speak. Here it is. Welcome to the Power Take Live, where we discuss strategic revenue growth for your brand and business. My name is Jackson Callum. I'm your host, and we look forward to talking about what's important for your business today. Let's dive in. Filtering the noise. What distractions exist in the world right now that you should stay away from so you can focus on building a profitable business model? Building with poise. What things you should be doing consistently to drive sustainable revenue growth. I talk about how to get the most out of the tools that you're using to drive your success. Tune in to the Power Take live on Mondays for momentum, motivation, and massive revenue growth. All right, so welcome into the Power Take. I'm your host, Jackson Callum. As I get down the new formatting, bear with me. We're going to get better and better at this as we go. I have a great team who was able to help me produce all of that. We produce segments like this, Facebook ads, marketing, operations, growth for companies that are out there that need to get brand exposure and need to get messages out there to the people who may want to work with them. So with that said, I'm happy to have you here. I'd love your feedback on the show. The goal is to empower you with the news that matters, as you just heard. And with that said, there's a conference coming up called Icon Maker Live. You'll notice that it is also one of our sponsors here, iconmakerlive.com, to go and see what it is that they're going to be presenting in terms of helping people launch and build their podcasts. Tom Matson, Cheryl Plouffe, fantastic leaders who can help with the process of setting up your podcasts and learning how to do that the right way. Now, right next to that is Capsho. Capsho as well is a fantastic company that just launched what they call an ambassador program. It's not an affiliate program. It's a connector ambassador program to help those who are utilizing that tool share it with the world, but also get compensated, of course, similar to an affiliate program. One of the distinctions that I think I just predict has to do with that is it's probably limited to the types of people who can actually use the program to share it, such as to customers. I haven't looked at the details on that, but I've been very happy with the community and how they build things up. And we do use it for our own show notes as well. So I recommend checking out Capsho. They've got a free trial experience. We can get a couple of credits and explore how the AI takes the show that you produce, whether it's a podcast or whether it's a show like this, or it's some other type of video that you have that you want to get out to the world. You can upload it to Capsho, and then Capsho becomes your copywriting assistant to help you create all sorts of copy. But it does more than that. It takes the audio clips as well out that are relevant. It's really awesome how much Capsho does for you. So let's dive into some of the hot topics that exist in the market right now. One of the ones that comes to mind, let me go and check these notes real quick, is the battle of the billionaires, as it's being called. You may have heard of this. That would be Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, who are planning to have a cage fight together, UFC style, and UFC might be one of the hosts. Now, this would be something that I would normally say filter, but this is an amazing PR opportunity for you. Ride the wave. That's the ultimate goal here. And that's my ultimate tip is if there's an event that's going on in the world that everybody's kind of preparing for or looking at, FIFA World Cup, for instance, looking at that, how can you piggyback um, those brands, those organizations, those events, and tie your own event to it for the sake of novelty? If you look at this program, I've kind of ultimately done that just by talking about that event, right? But if you can find other creative ways to tie these things together, for instance, you could do like if the event happens between Musk and Zuckerberg, then you could do a tailgate for teachers, for instance, right? Where you're doing a local opportunity to bring teachers together to watch said event. That's something you can do. There's so many ways that you can dive in and leverage events for your own benefit. And we'll take a look at some of the ways that bigger names have done just that, such as Dana White, making sure that he throws his hat in the cards. If you don't know, Dana White runs UFC. So it was very smart for him to get involved and be aware that his two billionaire buddies are looking to throw down in the octagon, as they call it. So let's take a look at some of these other news clips. What's new right now in business? And let's also see how this is being utilized. So the Guardian, right, they are a PR entity that's also playing around with this topic, and they'll talk about it as long as people are willing to go in droves and listen to it, right? So the Elon Musk won't fight Mark Zuckerberg in a cage match because he knows he would lose, right? America's most richest and most cowardly man, right? So they've got their own angle and spin on it. Let's go to the next one and take a look. So what Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg's canceled cage match says about masculine anxiety. And Kristen here, who you've probably never heard of, I've never heard of her. She's some PR queen out there that's got her presence and probably likes to, based on this, money can't buy masculinity. I'm assuming she's some type of coach or some type of individual talking about men and women and the need for men to rise again is kind of what I hear being said here with the end of men again and again. So whatever her angle is, it really, here we go. Associate professor of and chair of race, ethnic, and gender studies, right? So she just sees the opportunity to gain some notoriety for herself. And she's not trying to do that necessarily. Like maybe that's not the goal for her, is to say, okay, let me take advantage of Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk in order to drive PR. It doesn't really matter if that's her goal or not. At the end of the day, she now has a platform, and she now has a platform that's listening to her probably more than people did prior to producing this article. And that's the whole point, is tie your brand, what it is that you do and provide as a value, to the events that are going on in the world in order to be even more relevant. And if you can do that, you will drive lots of eyeballs and attention to you. Entities, for instance, that might reshare and repurpose that gets you in front of the people who follow those entities, who may be interested in the value that you provide. That's really the name of the game with PR. Let's look at the next article. So again, Dana White reveals what went wrong in Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk negotiations. By the way, he didn't necessarily reveal what went wrong. That's Drew's take. And Drew is using that in order to get attention on his article. And that article leads to some information about them discussing how this event could play out. I should probably turn my phone on silent during these, shouldn't I? All right. So you'll notice here that UFC wasn't the only entity that was considered for this. Mark Zuckerberg, also mentioned another. Here it goes. White conveniently left out the fact that Zuckerberg mentioned one championship as being a possible candidate to promote the fight. However, of course, Dana from the UFC had no interest in mentioning one whatsoever. Now, this is really cool. He also saw it was an opportunity for him to start establishing bigger relationships, which maybe he's already had, but he took it upon himself to reach out to the Italian government to propose hosting this fight in the Colosseum itself in Rome, right? These entities, these big business moguls, they go ahead and they seize the opportunity to create as many relationships and open as many doors as possible while they're at it. So even if this falls apart, Dana White has leveraged the opportunity to cement his opportunity to potentially host a fight in the Roman Coliseum. And again, maybe he's already done it. I don't know, but I do know that if you don't have your hat in the ring for getting noticed on broader scales, if you haven't had a connection with your local mayor, if you haven't tried to reach out to different entities, it's leveraging opportunities like this, seeing how do I fit into this equation of this crazy Twitter conversation that's taking place between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And by doing that, you end up having an opportunity to seize that might put you on the map in ways greater than any other advertising or marketing strategy might be able to. So let's dive into some of the other news that I've already kind of filtered for you. And just saying, anytime you go to Reuters or CNBC or these other sites, like this stuff's not really that helpful. And that's what drives me crazy about business news. It's like, I understand that this is very important for corporate America, but it's not going to, most of the stuff that I looked through and browsed through, it's not going to help you. Now, you can, if you have time to get creative, right? When we're moving in towards filtering the noise now, let's go ahead and switch that banner up real quick. So filtering the noise, like who cares about this stuff? There is some of it that can matter. If you have time to strategically dive in to see what's going on in restaurants, for instance, this 3 trends that are dividing restaurant companies into winners and losers, those trends might be worth diving into and taking a look at. So I did. Restaurant traffic, right? This talks about how in order to bolster prices right now, or rather revenues and profits, you can't just keep raising prices. People after COVID, yes, you could raise prices, and you did, and most of them did raise prices. They needed to in order to survive as restaurants. But now you can't just do that again to bolster profits. You've also got to drive more traffic, which requires PR, advertising, or marketing of a different fashion, not just raising the price again. Now, value perception, making sure that you're paying attention to what is it that people are actually valuing about your brand. And again, these cheap articles, they don't dive into much. You basically just get to see that McDonald's and Wendy's presidents have a difference in opinion. Well, how's that going to help your brand with what you're doing? It's not. And that's why a show like this exists. We'll be getting to lots of things that will help you with your brand move your business forward. And you're also welcome to comment. If you've got a specific brand challenge you're facing right now and you want me to dive in and tackle it, don't hesitate to mention it in the show notes. Right now is a great time to be able to do that while this show is new and while we're building up, because you know what? It's hard to run a new segment. I have a lot of respect for the teams that do this, because I wanted to launch this at 9 a.m. and I couldn't. I've had back-to-back, not interruptions, but opportunities to assist with clients and move other things forward. And so I had all the tabs open the entire day. And just now it was like, okay, I want to get this done. The world needs this. It's time to launch. So with that said, if you want something addressed for your business, don't hesitate to throw a curveball at me and see how well we hit it out of the park or not. And then I'd love for you to tell me if I swing and miss, or if you feel I did knock it out of the park, which I'm quite certain is going to happen. So, all right, promotions with restaurants, right? This is this McDonald's is doing this thing with Grimace birthday meal. I should probably know what that is. I don't know what Grimace is. I don't know if it's an old school thing, retro thing they brought back, or if it's something new. If I'm lost, call me out on it. And then Papa John's did this Doritos Cool Ranch flavored papadillas for $7.99 in May. And it says that it didn't hit nearly as much as this particular offer. We don't know why. We don't really know enough. Again, like if you can take the time to dissect what these opportunities are teaching you, such as Chipotle, in terms of their value perception, realizing that they had an opportunity to launch these bowls that I guess are cheaper. I don't know. I haven't had one of their bowls. It didn't work for me. I didn't come in for it, but perhaps I'm not their core target market for that particular strategy. So again, I don't like that in the world of business, the news that exists out there, it's like too hard to find what's relevant to the small businesses. But I tell you what is relevant. And that's not everything that happens in Google Analytics, but this Google Analytics 4 piece, if you haven't looked at it, you may have had your tech team scrambling to transfer over to the new Google Analytics. I'm a big fan of it, and I hope it gets better. I hope we learn what we need to make it even better. I'm grateful that I do have Google Analytics people who can make sure we have set up what we need. But ultimately, our brand is still at a small level where unless you have like 10,000 users per month going to your website, which we don't yet, then it's not really that big of a deal to know like what every single page on your website's doing. You're not at the level where you're competing yet. So what I'm saying is if you're not there, please stop worrying so much about Google Analytics. Like lay off your marketing and advertising team a little bit. And if you should be getting a monthly report, of course. And if you're not, then you should probably hire a team that does put together the basic Google Analytics for you. And there's, what really bothered me was they moved the customer journeys aspect. And so if I go over here to explore in our Google Analytics, I'm not going to reveal any of our customers' Google Analytics, but I'll play around with mine. There are these path explorations. This is where you get to it now. You go over to explore, and this is the news, by the way. This is the thing. If you're like in Google Analytics and stuck, and I hope one of you is like, oh my gosh, Jackson, thank you. I've been trying to find that again, and I haven't been able to. Well, hey, Merry Christmas. It's my day too for this one. Then right here, you get to the path sequences and setups, and you can play around with this process to get set up to see what sessions are people starting on. And where is it that they're taking them to? Anyway, this path creator. I'm not going to dive too much into it. Going back over to where we were at. In fact, there was one more area that I wanted to explore with these reports. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick for you guys. I had it this morning, man. I was right there. Engagements, pages, and screens. This can be an important thing for a smaller business to play around with and think through. And ultimately, what we're looking at here is over the last 28 days, and I'm going to change that to 90 days. Let's go ahead and apply that change. All right. Get a little bit more data. Like I had a strange spike here. You can see like we had 100 people come into this particular page on that day. I don't know why. I mean, we could go back and study the event and see what led so many people to join us on that day. I don't know if it was because we went live more than once, but that's the type of thing that if you're in a position to where your numbers, you're reaching enough people on a daily basis that it makes sense to pay attention to the daily spikes, then do that. Bring in a data analyst who's going to do that for you, who can alert you and say, hey man, that thing crushed it. We need to be doing more of that. But we look at it more over the course of our monthly and quarterly numbers to assess, okay, well, people are actually going to our Facebook group page quite a lot. And you know what? The average engagement time is decent. So I don't really have any changes to make to that one. And our contact us page, we have people that are going for about 20 seconds and we don't have a whole lot of phone calls. So maybe we need to do something better to inspire phone calls. Or we need to take a look and see, based on the events that we're tracking, are people taking the action that we want them to take on that specific page? But what we ultimately know from this chart alone is that all 10 of these pages are really the 10 pages that seem to be the most important for people. But we also have to compare that to the variables and realize, well, the growth programs page is brand new. It didn't even exist over the course of these 90 days. So what I see too many business owners get in the habit of is, and I just want to come back over and make sure it's still sharing. It is good. Is I see them making knee-jerk reaction assessments based on incomplete data sets that end up deceiving them into making too many adjustments or changes that shouldn't be made, and ignoring the logical changes that need to be made quickly in order for the brand to drive conversions. So again, important to have Google Analytics set up. By the way, like if you're new to business, you've got to get that set up. Like it's important to set up, even if you never look at it for the first few years of business, get Google Analytics set up for your brand, because you don't want to miss the collection of data. It serves as a infinite jar, if you will, for all of the information on your website. And if you do not have it set up, you cannot see your past data. If you do have it set up, and you have it set up properly, then it will be collecting that data so that at some point, once you have enough data, you can have somebody come in and analyze and see what's going on with your website and start making strategic changes on behalf of your brand that are based on real consumer interactions. If you're ignoring your website and you don't care about your website and you're not turning your website into a information base that is helpful to the prospects and consumers and contacts and customers, clients, patients, whatever you want to call them, that are going to your website, well, it's still not going to do you very much good, because if your website looks like most websites, well, it's got a long way to go to be updated before it's worth paying attention to the data. Again, you got to get a website in place that where you're actually caring about what actions are people taking. And then once you've done that, then you've worked with a team that can build out a good solid strategy to get people to convert to your offers. So with that said, one of the things that plugs in to Google Analytics and really your advertising strategies is something called Google Tag Manager. Feel free to take a screenshot. This is some of our tags that are set up for our business, and ultimately it allows us to track what's happening on our website in terms of like, all right, we sent people to a particular page. And when we got to the page, we wanted them to join the Facebook group. And so the button was clicked, right? This is what allows us to track that happened and tie it directly into a report. And that brings us to another newsworthy point that I don't have pulled up today, but that is that Facebook over the last, I do have it pulled up. I have an article about it pulled up. Facebook has been moving away from what's called the pixel. And so if you know what Facebook Pixel is, this isn't news per se for the last year, but if you haven't paid attention to what's going on in the Facebook world, you may have heard about pixels in the past. And now it's important to realize that they've moved it to something called data sets. So when you're looking for your pixel, look for data sets, and that will help you realize what's going on. I like how they word this. This isn't very nice of Kate, but it's kind of true. As Facebook pushes a replacement for its increasingly weak tracker, meaning it's getting weaker at the ability to track what users are doing after they go from your Facebook page to your landing page or to your website to interact with your materials. Advertisers are weighing the privacy risk and reward. Well, let me come right back to the screen. Remember this concept of weak tracking as I come back to the screen. What I really want you guys to focus in on is the fact that when it comes to tracking and when it comes to these data sets, yes, tracking is helpful. No, I'm not saying that it's not important to have remarketing built in, but too many of you guys have gotten very, very good at the remarketing stuff, but you still suck at marketing to begin with. And if you're not good at marketing, then you've got a bigger problem. So let's transition into building with poise, mindset, and strategy. When we're talking about, when these articles are coming out and talking about weak data tracking, all that, you have more tracking than you need. You should be able to win as a business on a cold traffic campaign. Okay. I'm going to say that again. You as a business should be able to win as a cold traffic campaign or with a cold traffic campaign, whichever preposition you prefer. Okay. Cold traffic. If you cannot convert cold traffic, you're not going to do very well with the warm market either. And if you're testing all that you're doing on your warm market, why would you do that? Why would you take risks with the people who know, like, and trust you? Why would you not be taking those risks on the cold traffic itself? It's a very, very important concept to keep in mind. And so if you're over focused on remarketing and squeezing every last drop of lemon out of the lemons you've gathered, but you've only got like 4 lemons and you need 1,000, then you need to be focused on going and gathering more lemons, not squeezing the drops out of the lemons that have kind of already been squeezed to death. That is so important. And so when it comes to gathering lemons, if you will, sticking with the analogy, like, you got to get distributed out there. You got to get your voice out there more. You got to get more messages out there. And that means showing up live. That means going to events. That means like Icon Maker Live and learning how to do it and distribute your voice out there on all the different platforms. I don't know if you know this. This is being streamed on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on 5 different Facebook pages are all tied to this stream right now. Thanks to utilizing StreamYard and putting together all of our links and technology and all that. It's very helpful and important to know that you've got to, again, get your distribution out there. And Facebook ads is the most low-hanging fruit to do that. Google ads are fine. YouTube ads are good to build on top of it, but I've never seen either of those channels outperform Facebook ads. And please, if somebody has a case study where they can prove that that's wrong, I would love it, because I'm not trying to just champion one platform as much as pointing out the reality of what I've seen and that most people ignore. I saw a great case study today for a Twitter carousel, for instance, and the metrics for the Twitter carousel were on point with Facebook. I would be curious to see, for instance, well, which one would you be able to scale with the same results to $50,000 in ad spend faster? Unfortunately, I'm not made of money. I don't have $50,000 to spend on each platform to be able to test that. And I don't have an offer to scale at that capacity yet, nor do I need to. And that's kind of the point is, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, etc., all of them know. Every single one of those platforms, what I've seen, know they have to compete with the industry standard. And what's the industry standard? It's Facebook ads. It's Facebook ads. All the same people that are on LinkedIn, 90% of them are over here on Facebook and beyond that. There's lots of people on Facebook who do not have LinkedIn, but it is much rarer that the other opportunity exists. And you might say, well, I'm the one person who doesn't have Facebook. That's fine that you don't. But we're not talking about you. We're talking about data. And we're talking about the market at large. And so one of the keys to key on mindset and strategy wise, it's fine if you don't want to be on Facebook personally. That's totally fine. But just know that if you have an ad campaign to scale, your best budget is going to be spent on Facebook ads. And some might argue, well, it's not a business to business platform. No, that's just people hyping things up. That's just marketers trying to win your attention with clever new tricks so that you will read their articles or attend their events or whatever else it is. That's not truth. Now, if you look at Facebook, people have Facebook that have business accounts. Why? Let's look at the truth as to why. Why would they have a Facebook account? Well, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, those are most likely to be your C-level executives in life. The ones who are actually running great companies that are scaling, those are your business owners that are more established. They've figured things out after decades of trying. Like, that's where the grand majority of your success is taking place. And those people also have grandkids. Okay. And if they have grandkids, nobody's sending photos home anymore. They haven't done it for, I don't know, a decade. We post the photos of our children. You can see my beautiful children on my Facebook page and on my Instagram. So guess who has a Facebook page and an Instagram? My mother. She has it. So do my siblings who are older than me. Everybody that I know who has kids tends to post their pictures on Facebook and Instagram, which means the C-level executives, while they're not hanging out on Facebook, they're not diving in for 3 hours per day like some of the younger generations might be. They are definitely, when they have their downtime or when they feel like they're missing out on life, whatever it is, they are going to Facebook in order to quickly see the photos. And guess what? When your ad targets them and it nails their pain point, they are the ones who click on it. So if anybody ever tries to tell you that your audience isn't on Facebook, like, plug your ears and run, because they don't know what they're talking about. And if you give me an example where that might be the case, drop it in the comments. I will take a look and see as well. And I'll provide you with what I know on my end as a data set, not to prove anybody wrong, but to open the doors to a healthy debate about what's actually going on for your market. Because if you don't understand the strategy of targeting, and if you live in fear of strategy and in fear of learning what that looks like, well, that mindset, that's a mindset issue. That's not a strategy issue. We got to work on that too to help you move your brand forward. So let's take a look at some of these. We did actually explore some of the toys already. We already looked at Google Analytics, and I'd be happy to dive into, let's see here. Be happy to dive into, well, we looked at Tag Manager as well. Facebook pixels, we don't really need to look at. So if there's any tool you want me to dive into, don't hesitate to let me know. But I actually combined like all of the topics today into one, which is kind of nice. It just made this whole session flow really, really well. So with that said, let's dive in a little bit further on Facebook ads while we're at it. In fact, just ads in general, ad principles. If you're in a position where you need to get your voice out there, you need to attract more clients, then I highly recommend advertising as a means to do so, because in the past 10, 15, 20 years ago, when you were spending on ad campaigns, you had to spend a ton of money in order to do it. You couldn't use these online tools. And nowadays, like, you're welcome to go in and try to set this all up yourself. That's the cool thing, is like nothing's stopping you. All I can tell you is that rabbit hole is going to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then when you've spent $500, you're likely to give up, because you realize how deep the rabbit hole goes. And you're probably going to think that you failed, and you didn't fail. You just barely crossed the threshold of understanding what you need to do. And the cool thing is, every dollar that you spend on it, regardless of the platform, if you're in one of these online platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, every single one has a learning curve for how the setup process goes. But the neat thing is, every dollar that you actually spend does result in awareness for your brand. The unfortunate reality, though, is we're also placing the value on that with all of these online conversion expert gurus that have these really wonky, $7 offers, etc. By the way, I have my own set of offers like that, but I'm I'm in a market that is saturated with all sorts of $1 to $99 offers. And just because we all offer things around the same price does not make all offers equal in terms of value. So unless you're actually following somebody who's got a vested interest in what it is that you're doing and has the time and attention to put on your campaigns, if you're brand new to the Facebook ads process, just know that you're entering in the lion's den. You're entering in a very difficult reality, and they all know that eventually you're going to burn out and give up on your own, because you just can't. You can't get the types of results that you want typically, unless you're that rare unicorn, who just happens to have the gift of marketing and copywriting and design creation, etc. So I share all that with fair warning. And I was looking at a Twitter carousel campaign today. And I thought it was really interesting, because the client I was discussing this campaign today with wants to shift their strategy. And that's totally fine. They want to shift their strategy from what we were doing to this Twitter carousel. And the results are ultimately going to be the same. And, that's the challenge of not understanding the mathematics behind it. And the results are going to be the same, and they're going to be good. However, instead of continuing on the path of the bridge that they're already on, and midway through, they want to create a new bridge, which means they're going to go back to square one with the process. And yes, they'll have some materials already done, and they'll have some elements in place. It'll be a little bit faster to build, but what I'm trying to get is it doesn't make sense to do that when you're already on a bridge and you're already moving and you've got half of it built. Finish the bridge. That's the biggest key to success, is to continue the process of ironing out all that you need to optimize the process in order to win. But here's some of the metrics that were shared in this Twitter carousel YouTube case study that really struck me. One of the things that I think my client overlooked was that the person who did the case study admits in the video that he spends $300 to $500 per day on his ads. Okay. Not per month, not per year, 300 to 500 per day. And he says, don't worry, you can scale this up, from $20 if you start $20 to $40 per day. But it's not like it changes magically to where, oh, well, I'm going to get the same results, even though I'm spending 20 and he's spending 500. That's what you're missing on this, is either way. And here's what I mean by that. The guy's cost per click is $6 to $10 on this ad set. And he justifies that, and I get it. And he says, like, hey, some of you think this would be bad. And I love that. He says some marketers would not be happy with that result. And no, I don't think I would go that high personally. But I get what he's saying. Like, it doesn't really matter what your cost per click is if you're getting a return on investment that you want. And your ad is a profitable ad. If you're getting for every dollar spent, $5 in return, then you don't need to worry so much if your cost per click is high, because your cost per conversion was great. However, if you can get your cost per click down to what a normal cost per click should look like and drive the same amount of conversions, then instead of getting a 5 to 1 return, you're going to get like a 20 to 1 return, which is far better. And that's why you want to look at the assets and see what can I optimize about every single stage of the process. And if you're not taking notes right now, I highly recommend taking notes, because I'm not going to go in order. But when I take notes, by the way, main page is like the majority. I've got all sorts of notes here. And then I put a column on the right-hand side. In the column, I go ahead and delineate the actions that I'm going to take to improve my ads in this case, or my mindset, or my strategy, whatever else it was that we were on the concept of. So going back into that case study, and I'm not going to reveal these names because I'm working with a client on this project, but that person says that he spends that $300 to $500 per day, and it's what drives him is 250,000 reach per month. Okay. That's 250,000 people evaluating us per month. That's awesome, if you have the budget to do that. And let's see here. And he says in his ad, though, that, this works, even if you don't have a big following. And I'm not very happy with him running that, because this guy's got, I don't know. I think he's got several thousand people following him on Instagram, like 15,000 or so. Maybe not, though. So I'm gonna hold back on that one. If he doesn't have that, that's phenomenal. And he can use that in his ad speak. All right. So, well, most people are looking for that cost per click to be around $1 to $3, he acknowledges. And yes, that's true. My goal for all my clients is below $1. We want the cost per click to come in below $1. That's that is mandatory here. We have to get that, because that's exactly that's that bulletproof, super scalable, irresistible offer that the whole market's like, wow, that is such a good offer, such a great concept. I want to engage with this. All right. Cost per lead. He says a cost per lead comes out to $25. Well, that's a pretty good cost per lead. We were right before Thanksgiving. We were running an ad for our Power Launch webinar, and we had gotten that all the way down to $12. That's kind of unheard of. You don't see cost per leads of less than $25 very often, or even less than $50 very often. And when you do, be careful. Be very careful to explore the variables as to why. What is the catch? Why is that cost per lead so low? There may be something fishy going on that's going to end up tanking your campaign in the end. He also said his cost per call booked was $250. And that $250 cost per call booked, that's actually right on par with where my last ads were that ran to a cost per call booked. Our cost per call booked was around $300. I think that's high. If you're receiving a cost per call booked of $250 to $300 range, that means that you need to be optimizing the quality of your ad sets. Now that said, I have heard that Cole Gordon, he had a cost per call booked of $1,200, as revealed by a provider who said that our $300 cost per call booked was right on point, with the best of the best, including their own. I'm not going to name the provider for now on that either, but I have seen a number of people who are very, and another number of great companies. In fact, some of the biggest companies in the world, they'd be very happy to have $1,000 cost per call booked, and that's what having a great profitable business model is all about. If you're profitable, then it doesn't really matter what your cost per metric comes out to, whether you're the best in the industry or you happen to be on the industry benchmarks, like the standards, the norms, the average. It doesn't matter if your ROI is there, if your return on investment is there. Scale. That's what you need to be looking at. So the cost per acquisition, though, that he was receiving for his ads was $1,000. What's cost per acquisition? Cost per acquisition meaning how much you're paying to actually get the client. Well, you need to look at your profit margins and your transaction value. If your transaction value is $15,000, but you're losing money on it, then you don't necessarily want a cost per acquisition of $1,000. But my gift to you, what I hope that you write down and do is, if that's your dilemma, fix the dilemma. And it's not the ad. It's not the formula with the CPAs. It's the fact that you don't have a profitable business model. You need to make sure that what you're charging is in line with the profits that you want and need in order to sustain your business model. Very important to pay attention to that. So with that said, if you're going to run ads on your own, I highly recommend following Dennis Yu. He is an acquaintance of mine. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I engage with him a number of times. He does a really good job of helping people understand the value of at least setting up advertising where you're spending $1 a day. On the flip side, if you're looking for somebody to run ads for you or to really, and it's not about running the ads, it's about if you're looking for traffic, then stop ignoring it. Stop trying to go about traffic the hard way in all the ways that are unpredictable, that you can't scale, with the drop of a hat, that you can't, retarget. Every day of the week is going to be different. Every campaign that you come out with is going to change. Like you got to move fast with business, and advertising online is one of the fastest ways to get your message distributed, and in order to make sure that you're winning. So let's go back one more time. That client of mine that wants to change his funnel, yet they want to dedicate $30 per day to their new funnel, when the guru who launched a case study on it is spending $300 to $500 per day. And at $300, $500 per day, he's getting one call booked on $300 in ad spend. That means he's only getting 1 to 2 calls booked per day. So if you were to follow that same strategy and say, I'm only going to spend 30 a day, that means you might get a call every 10 days. So if you run that ad spend, right, $30 per day for an entire month, and you waste an entire month's worth of time, you might end up with 1 to 3 calls, 1 to 6, right? If you hit the Yahtzee, you get 6. If you do poorly, you might get 1 or less. And now here's the problem. As a small business, you will have spent $300 and you will have felt like you wasted it. You didn't waste your ad spend. You didn't trust it. You didn't spend enough in order to really know what was going on based on those benchmarks and metrics. So if you don't know what benchmarks and metrics you're supposed to be following in order to grow your revenues, I would highly suggest working with a company like ours, where we put together those projections on the front end. And so I'll reveal that final tool. This is, one of my greatest power tools for growth. And let's see here, present screen share. Let's go right over to it. Right over to the board, as they say on ESPN. All right, diving in, StreamYard, sharing my screen. Awesome. So as part of the onboarding process, after we get all the information we need to assess a company and where they're at, we help them see these blueprints to understand that, listen, you've got to intrigue and attract people before they're willing to buy from you. Don't offer something to a complete stranger. That it's just going to freak people out. You got to move people past stranger danger, and you got to inspire them and invite them to take actions that are outrageously simple, but also consider providing something that's more thoughtfully deep. And if you're not giving them goodwill in the front end without interacting with them, they're not going to want to talk to you because they're not going to trust you. You're just like every other provider out there. And I got some typos in here, by the way. It needs to say learn more. It shouldn't say sing up. It should say sign up. And then down here, it says pre-quality, but it should be pre-qualify your visitors. And if you do that application process where people have to go through an application in order to meet with you, it provides more authority. It provides more credibility to what you're doing. And it also keeps people from meeting with you who are going to waste your time, who aren't ready to move forward. So let's look at Power Strategy now. This is a basic calculator. This is not a complete calculator. This is the one that most gurus will show you, if they even show you this and say, hey, this is all you need to win. But there are so many missing plot holes in this that don't give you the full picture. But if you're scared of math, this is where you start. Don't worry. We will share with you a much more sophisticated calculator that allows us to build the entire value ladder out for somebody and make sure that we are on track to measuring key results for you to win. So let's dive into this. So this first calculator, if my cost per view, which 14 cents is high, maybe for YouTube that's still good, but on Facebook, our latest ad got less than a 1 cent cost per view, and I think that's fairly unheard of. And let's move beyond that to the click-through rate. Your click-through rate should be in the range of 2 to 3%. That's aggressive. That's hard to hit. And if you can hit more than that, more power to you. Awesome. That's why we optimize and keep testing what's working with the market. But notice, let me walk you through this calculator without changing anything. You'll notice up here the ad spend's $500. The gross return says 0. We did get a bunch of views because of this 14 cents per view spent. So we got 3,500 people to be aware of the brand, but there weren't enough people who clicked to the website and who converted in order to become customers. And so This person lost, according to them, they would say they lost $500 on ad spend. I would say that's a poor mindset. That's a terrible way to look at it. You don't lose $500. Your $500 got 3,571 people to tell you that they're not that interested in you, but they got interested enough to at least check your website out. And 10 of them even wanted to talk to you. So you learned a lot of valuable lessons along the way. And what you learn should be teaching you how to improve from there, not how to give up. Because if you can turn this, watch what happens. If you had just spent $40 more, trusted in your campaign, bam. If your customer value, I skipped that. But if your customer value is $2,000, meaning they're going to pay you, one person will pay you $2,000 for moving forward. You had a profitable ad, but you blew it because you gave up before spending enough on your campaign. All right, so that's one element. Then this cost per view element, I'm going to teach you a massive secret. Most marketers and advertisers don't realize this. You have complete control over the cost that you reach, your cost per view on Facebook and on YouTube. And the one thing that you need to do to change it, and it's so much easier than you think, is improve the quality of your offer. Facebook rewards businesses that have great offers because people will like, comment, and share and enjoy the platform. So if you're trying to give people a newsletter that nobody wants, or you don't have an incentive for people to opt in, Facebook's going to raise the cost because your people on Facebook, the people on Facebook who might be interested in you won't be. And so they're telling you, stop advertising with that really bad offer. Please, they can't stop you because you're welcome to spend on whatever you want to on Facebook ads as long as it's legal and follows their regulations. But if you go ahead and create something that people are like, man, I would love that. I love the idea of being hosted on a podcast. That could be one example. I love the idea of a free dessert at that restaurant. I love the idea of the 7 signs that my metabolism, needs to be worked on, or thyroid. Like if it's something free and tangible that allows people to explore an offer related to a pain, a pleasure, or a purpose that associates with their life, then they will want to opt in for it. And so your cost goes down. Watch what happens when your cost goes from a 14-cent cost per view down to even just a 10-cent cost per view. Your views went up. It didn't affect the rest of the funnel enough to lead to a conversion, but that's where you need to be disciplined as a business owner and say, you know what, or as a marketer and say, what can I do to affect the rest? Well, guess what? If your cost per view went down, that also means your click-through rate went up. And maybe it only went up a couple of points, but if we move it up from 1.5, 1.7, let's see what happens. Boom. Now our clicks to the website went up and our lead conversion rate. That will probably go up too because we improve the offer. And if you improve the offer and the destination remains the same, then the destination will still benefit if you got people more excited, but it won't go up too much unless you change that page. Let's say it goes from 18 to 20. Once again, 17 conversions, now up to 18. These are people who might buy from you later, but we can move these metrics so much further when you work with a team that knows what they're doing and you're not guessing. So watch again what happens when we go from a cost per view of 10 cents to a cost per view of 3 cents. Boom. Now you spent $540 and you made $12,000 because you created an ad that gives away an incredible amount of value on the front end with those people knowing that they're going to get sold on the back end. And if that click-through rate goes up as well, because people are like, whoa, this is cool, let's just move it up to 2%. Okay, we got another conversion on there. Now your average free dessert giveaway is actually going to generate a lead conversion rate of more than 60%. So let's just put the minimum on that. And if that's the case, oh my goodness. Now we're talking about spending $540 on Facebook ads and making $41,460 in net return, not counting the costs of the teams that you're working with, of course, and the other assets that you have outside. This is a return on ad spend directly. The customer conversion rate, let's take a look at that. What if you didn't just convert 10%? What if, again, you're giving away a free dessert and people come to that restaurant and more of them want to buy from you. And now your customer value is not $2,000 directly in that case. This would be based on a lifetime customer value in this incident, or I guess the year and the annual or the biannual, 2-year value would be more accurate. But even then, Starbucks says that theirs is around $14,000 on one of their projections and 8,000 on the other. So again, this is why it's so important to assess and to not wing this. So whatever I'm teaching you right now, it's only to get your feet wet, and it's to help you assess further. Like, what if these things did happen? What if I worked with a strategic team who's going to pay attention to this and say, okay, how can we improve this experience of the customer who comes into the door? How do we give them such a wow experience that they want to come back? And if you can do that, look again at what type of effect you're having on your business model. This is called reverse engineering. Well, it's really just playing with a calculator right now. But what would be reverse engineering is figuring out the metrics that we need to hit, which we already know, by the way. These are the basic standard metrics that a business must hit in order to receive a return on investment that is instant and easy to see through advertising, rather return on ad spend. But these are not the metrics that we aim to hit with our clients. The metrics that we aim to hit with our clients are not based on this calculator, because look here. Let's say that you, as a business owner, you offer appointments for a dentist, or you're a dentist and you have dental appointments available, or you are a coach. If you're a coach for mindset, or a lifestyle coach, or you have an agency, in any one of those business models, you're driving people to an appointment. Well, that's missing in this calculation, right? So if people convert to your lead magnet, as we were just talking about, something that they opt into for free, they don't go from that to becoming a customer. That's not how that works. They go through layers. And what layers do they go through? There's an opportunity for them to book their appointment, sure, but where's that on here? How many of those leads, these 10, are actually going to book an appointment? You got to find that out. And out of those people who book the appointment, what percentage of those are going to no-show? And what percent of those are going to cancel or reschedule? Those are variables. What percentage of those who actually go through that experience are going to close and pay you money? All of those variables are not factored into this calculator, but they are factored in to the Power Ladder Builder calculator. And this calculator can set you up for extreme profitability. As I mentioned before, spending $500 on ads, for instance, and understanding that, I can get a 3-cent cost per view. This should be our benchmark. This should be our goal. We want to go for a 3-cent cost per view at maximum. And we want to make sure that we're getting a click-through rate of 3%. And we're going to do everything that we can with the ads in order to make sure that that happens. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. This is about building Rome. You're going to be building brick by brick, laying those down. The assets that you have help us build that city faster. But if you don't have them, then naturally we have more to build out for you. And we need to make sure that whatever they're converting with, lead conversion rate wise, at least 30%. We got to get there. And then we want to scale from there. But if you don't have that currently, stop building with 70% as the goalpost, right? That can be a great goal to have. We want the BHAGs too, but we also want to be practically building based on the milestones that your brand's going to achieve. And it helps us make sure that we're constantly focusing on where do we go from here. And then we keep this calculator separate from the practical calculator, where we duplicate this calculator in order to showcase what we actually hit versus what we're aiming for. And until we hit all of these metrics the way that we want to hit them, there's really no point in paying too much attention to that BHAG. We've got to make sure that you as a company in the here and now are performing well. So we got that lead conversion rate happening here. In our case, we highly recommend creating a simple one-time offer value, something that would normally cost like $47, and you offer that at a $7 level. We're not going to go into the depths of that. I just want to have the opportunity to show you how valuable it is to build these systems out the right way, accounting for your show rate, which you should be aiming for a 75% show rate. That's high. That's not easy to achieve. It's usually between a 60 and a 70% show rate for good companies, not great, and not bad companies, or companies without proven models. If you do not have a proven model and you are not achieving metrics of any kind right now, do not tell us that you expect to have a show rate of 60%, because you're only deceiving and hurting yourself. And then there's a close ratio as well. And close rate of 50% is actually quite high. But if you think about somebody following this value ladder process, that's not a high close rate. Why? Because we've conditioned the market. And how have we done that? We've done that through a profit maximization formula where we're talking about a prospect that has already agreed that they don't hate your ad. They clicked on your ad and come forward to look and see that free thing that you're giving away. And they've opted into it as well. And once they've opted into it, they've been presented with a one-time offer at $7. And so what they're doing is they're actually interviewing you as their potential provider the entire time they're going through this funnel, learning about your authority, learning about your credibility, saying, man, this is helpful. Wow, this is helpful. And they're thinking, I wonder what this person could do if I hired them to solve my bigger problems behind this. But you're giving them the opportunity to test your brand all the way through the process. And so they then get presented with a $27 offer that is more deep than the original $7 offer. And finally, they're landing on this, wow, unbelievable value, $297 offer that would normally be much higher than that. And that is a loss leader. All of these are loss leaders for you. You know, they're not meant to make you money. And if you're leveraging it to cushion your profits, well, you're also limiting your scale, because the greedier you are, the more people will stay away from you. The more abundant you are, the more people will come into the process and see that and say, wow, like this is amazing. I've got to keep testing this and testing the waters and seeing, which will lead them to that application process. And so if you're getting on the phone with somebody who's already tested your free value out and received it with grace, and who's already opened their wallet to purchase something for $7 to get an idea for what value of resources you're willing to provide. And they've also bought into your $27 value, and they've also met with your team on something that is a little bit lower hanging, but it's something that they needed some guidance on at $297. When that person gets on the phone with you after having filled out an application, like, good luck screwing that sales call up. That would be kind of hard to do. So that's the process of the value ladder combined with the profit maximization formula. It's a great power tool to utilize. You're welcome to contact us to get access to it. If there's any other business news you'd like to share, drop it in the comments. There's plenty of opportunities, of course, to take advantage of news in a world with 8 billion people. And I look forward to hearing what segments of this particular episode or this particular news broadcast, if you will, ended up helping you with your business. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Power Take show or in tomorrow's episode of Vision Pros Live. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Welcome to the Power Take Live, where we discuss strategic revenue growth for your brand and business. My name is Jackson Callum. I'm your host, and we look forward to talking about what's important for your business today. Let's dive in. Filtering the noise. What distractions exist in the world right now that you should stay away from so you can focus on building a profitable business model? Building with poise. What things you should be doing consistently to drive sustainable revenue growth. And talk about how to get the most out of the tools that you're using to drive your success. Tune in to the Power Take live on Mondays for momentum, motivation, and massive revenue growth.